wasn't like one of the targeted strikes we've seen take out other leaders over the last few months. Let's speak now to Yasemin Matha, who's an expert in the region who works at the University of Oxford. Thank you so much for being with us. Your headline thoughts in terms of the news that's emerging?
If it is true, it certainly is a significant event. He was, as was mentioned, Haniyeh's replacement. And definitely in the short term, it will create a vacuum in the higher echelons of Hamas. It is true that the Israelis have claimed, and I have no reason to believe or disbelieve it, I don't know, that he was the mastermind of 7th of October. However, it should also be said that he was born in Khan Younis, a refugee camp, from parents who were forced to leave their home in 1948. So I know that the IDF spokesperson was very keen to start from 7th of October. We always have to remember that 1948 and the displacement of the Palestinians was also a very significant date.
Frank Gardner, our security correspondent, was telling our viewers much more about him, charting all of that history, the brutality in some of the years in terms of organising security within Hamas, even within the prison when he was held prisoner for so many years before his release. In terms of the impact, though, on Hamas, how do you see it? Because you will have heard our last guest saying that, in her view, it now represents an opportunity for hostage releases. How do you see it?
I doubt it, because my expectation would be that he will be replaced by someone of similar opinion. He was slightly more hardline than Haniyeh. He was close to the axis of resistance. And my guess is that given the current situation and the war in Lebanon, he might be replaced by someone who is also close to Hezbollah and will not want, given the bombings in Beirut, given the war in northern Israel, to go for a ceasefire. I doubt if that would be the case. In addition, I don't think at the moment, I don't think the Israeli government is keen on a ceasefire this side of the US presidential elections.
I was just quoting what one of our earlier interviews, another former IDF spokesman had said in terms of he was hearing from his former colleagues that they'd in effect stumbled across Sinwar above ground, somewhere in the centre, somewhere in the south of the Gaza Strip, because we know over the last 12 months, as Israel has hunted him as top of their most wanted list, he's been obsessed, hasn't he, with his own security.
He was very much in hiding. There were claims that he messaged various people, organized various events, but he was rarely seen. Occasionally we have seen him, but he was rarely seen. And it is interesting because this time it doesn't look as if intelligence had played a role in finding him. It was an accident stumbling across him. At the same time, it shows the extent of this war that is now affecting Middle Gaza, as your correspondent was saying.
It's interesting because, of course, we're trying to make an assessment of what this does amongst Hamas leadership, because here we are talking a year into this war and Hamas still has the capacity and capability of firing missiles and rockets at Israeli forces, hand-to-hand combat. So whatever the degradation of the Hamas fighters are, it is still not complete, is it, from the Israeli perspective?
The problem is that I think killing or assassinating individuals does not end wars. People volunteer because of the situation. 42,000 people have died in Gaza, have been killed in Gaza. So inevitably their relatives, people who are associated with them, are joining the ranks of Hamas, if I'm not mistaken. I believe that there are people from the West Bank who now support Hamas. So you are not going to finish a war like that just by assassination and killings. It's unlikely that the war will end like that. You will have new volunteers.
Which brings me to my final thought, which is, of course, we've been getting details from Israel, getting reaction, but how do you think the wider region will be reacting?
My guess is that the countries of the axis of resistance will express solidarity, sorrow. The problem with the other countries, such as Egypt or Jordan, other countries, the Arab Gulf states, is that they might rejoice in the event, but they are well aware of the dissatisfaction and rebellion on what is called the Arab street, the ordinary people in the towns and cities of Arab countries. So there, they might celebrate, but they will be very muted. They will not express it openly for fear of increasing opposition within their own borders.
Yasmine, we have to leave it there. Thank you so much for joining us live on the